Hey guys, Effie here. Today I'm going to do this basic Cricut tutorial on how to cut our fresh layered roses SVG cut file, and I'm also going to make this finished card using our cut pieces. So first, head over to the Cricut website and enter their Design Space software, and you're going to be facing this grid workspace. You're going to head over to the upload button, and that is where you're going to upload your recently saved SVG cut files. You're going to click on this upload image button if you haven't uploaded your SVG cut file yet. If you have already, you'll see it in this section right here. These are your recently uploaded images. And if you've uploaded a bunch of files and you can't see your recently uploaded SVG cut file, you're going to head over to the View All button, click that, and you're going to find it if you scroll down here. So you can see all the files that I've uploaded, but I'm going to choose our fresh layered roses since that's what we're going to make today. Now, your fresh layered roses is going to be grouped together so you can move it around if you click it around on your workspace, but I'm going to keep it grouped for now. And you can also see that all the images are color coded. This is light blue, this is also light blue, and these are going to cut on the same mat. I've color coded everything for your Cricut so that you can cut everything in one pass for each layer to make it as easy and convenient for you as possible. Now, if you want to cut everything out on the same mat, there is a tip for that, but that's for a later video. So let's get cutting. Once you're ready to cut, click on the green Make It button at the top right-hand corner. Once you click it, you're going to see this screen. For this project or this cutting file project, we have 5 different mats that we're going to cut our layers on, and you can see the coordinating colors for each layer. If you click on each different mat, you can see the different layers individually on your screen. You can also choose the size of the material that you plan on using. There is this drop down menu. If you just click it, you have these different options. 12 by 12 is the default. And after you've chosen the size of your material, that image is kind of going to show up on that workspace. So here I'm going to just click on the 8.5 by 11, and you can see that green kind of paper area change colors on your mat. And you can also click this little button to rotate your images to better customize the placement of these images on your Cricut mat. And you can move your images anywhere on this green shaded area, because that green shaded area is where you're going to place your 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. So I'm just going to move this tiny little leaf to the left side so that I can make the most out of the cardstock that I'm using for this cut area. And at this time, you can click over to the other mats on the left-hand side and play around with the placement of those images as well. If you've already gone ahead and started cutting your projects without doing your custom placement, there still is a way to move your images around on your mat after you've started your project. I'll show you how to do that after I've made my first cut. So I'm going to go ahead and continue playing around with some of the placement. For me, I like to place my images as closely as possible so I can save as much space as I can on my cardstock. That way, once my images are all cut, I can use them for a later project. After you're satisfied with the placement of your images, you can go ahead and click that Make It button at the top right-hand corner. Once you've clicked that, you're going to see that all of your mats on the left are ready to cut. You can click this Edit button to continue playing with the placement of your objects, and you can click this rotation button, I guess that's what it is, to rotate and move your images. So all of your mats will have this edit button for you to do so. And also, just one tip, you don't have to cut out your mats in the order shown on the left. You can just click on whichever mat you want to cut as you continue your cutting process. Just place your cursor over which mat you want to cut, click that mat, and then that is going to get highlighted. That means you've selected that mat to cut. And you can see that this mat has been highlighted and the rest of the mats have been grayed out. At this point, you can see that my Cricut has not been connected to my computer because it hasn't been turned on. So you want to make sure, turn your Cricut on and let's start cutting. When you click that Make It button, you're going to come to this screen and this is what you're going to see, and your Cricut is ready to cut. I'm using my Cricut Explore Air 2, and all the options for the materials are on that dial. So I've chosen the light cardstock plus option. Now I'm at my Cricut machine. I've already applied my light blue cardstock onto my Cricut mat, and I'm going to load it into my machine. There's this blinking button right here. It has two arrow heads on the top and bottom. While your machine is cutting, you can head on over to your computer screen to see the progress on your project. Done cutting, your unload button is going to blink. You just press that and it's going to unload your mat. For this layer, I'm using Michael's cardstock, 65-pound weight cardstock. It cuts like butter when you use your Cricut, so I really love it for these cutting files. I'm going to carefully peel away my cut images, and then I'm going to cut my second layer. So I'm going to head on over to my computer, and you can see that we're going to cut mat 4. We've already cut mat 3. You can see by the little check mark that that has already been cut. So I'm going out of order. I'm going to cut 1 and 2 later. Those are the leaves. So let's go ahead and cut mat 4, which is the second layer of my roses. So I just click that mat and we see this screen. Let's head on over to our Cricut machine. Now the load and unload button is blinking. I already have my blue cardstock on my mat, so I'm just going to load this onto or into my Cricut, and now the Cricut button is blinking. You can't see it on screen, but it is blinking, and now I pressed it, and now let's get this second layer of roses cut. After I cut this layer, I'm going to show you how I cut the third layer of these layered roses because I will be using a heavier weight cardstock. I'm using a dark navy 80-pound weight cardstock, which is heavier than what I've been using. I'm going to double cut this layer and I'm going to show you how I did that. So we're going to go in for the first cut here. Let's load our mat and make sure you change the dial. Change it to cardstock or cardstock plus. I'm using cardstock plus, and then I'm going to load the mat in, and now we're going to cut the third layer for the first time. When my first cut is finished, you're going to see that unload load button blink. Before you unload it, to cut it a second time, you want to click the Cricut button at this point. Don't press that unload button because if you press that unload button, you're missing your window of opportunity to get a nice clean cut for that second cut. And this is what you want to do if you're using heavier weight cardstock. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get your cut pieces out of your cardstock. And once that second cut is complete, that unload load button is going to start blinking again. And at this time, you can click that button to unload your Cricut mat because you have a nice clean cut. For the 2 layers of my leaves, I'm going to just go ahead and do that off camera because the process is what I've already shown you. So everything is cut out and on my craft mat. Let's get ready to assemble. I'm using Tombow liquid adhesive to glue my pieces together. You want to make sure you use a glue that dries fairly matte. This one does. I like this glue because even after you've applied your pieces together, you still have a little bit of wiggle room to move your layers to exactly where you want it. If you have any glue oozing out of some of the layers after you've put your piece down, you can just take a piece of paper towel or tissue and just dab up some of that excess glue. These layers are so easy to position and place. They're very forgiving because they're a little bit abstract. And you can also use some tweezers to help you get some nice placement and also to avoid getting some of that glue on your hands. So let's go ahead and layer up that second smaller rose. These SVG cut files are just amazing and they're such a game changer because sometimes when I'm cutting out florals and foliage, I really don't like running things so many times through my die cutting machine. It just becomes very tedious. I love using these digital files to mass produce some of these florals because you can make a lot of them at one time and then just throw them on a project. It's that easy. So you spend less time cutting these images out and you just have to do a little bit of assembly and then you're done. You have these beautiful embellishments that you can use for cards or scrapbooking or anything that you want. Once I finish putting together the foliage pieces, which are 2 layers each, I am done and you can see the other kind of color combinations that I've created. So now let's go ahead and make a finished card. This is my garden foliage cut file that I've cut on light blue cardstock. This is a cover plate cut file. So when you finish cutting it, it will layer over an A2 size card panels. All you need to do is feed it into your machine and it's ready to place on an A2 size project. So I just applied some liquid adhesive behind my garden foliage cut piece and applied it onto an A2 card panel. After I've applied that cut piece, I'm just going to add some extra adhesive to areas where I see portions of the foliage coming up and then dab away any excess glue. Now let's start popping up our floral embellishments. I'm going to use some dimensional foam tape that I've put in the center of my florals, and then I just cut off this little leaf on this foliage cluster because that leaf was going to just hide behind that large rose and I didn't want to waste it. So I cut it off and tucked it into another portion of my floral arrangement, and then I'll just tuck and nestle additional leaves into my floral arrangement to give it some body and life. And then I have this pre-made sentiment strip. It just has a thank you sentiment on it. I've made this off camera and I'm just going to pop it up right onto my card. Next, I created an A2 size card base by cutting an 8.5 by 11 size cardstock in half, and then I scored a line right down the center and adhered my finished panel onto my base, completing my project for today. I'll be back with some additional Cricut videos to help you use some of our digital files. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's project and video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it on a weekly basis. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.